I missed and delete my video for what I'm using in his hair. So I'm going to redo it right now. Right now. Really quick. 3 simple things. Rubber bands. You can use a scrunchie. You can use rubber bands. Whatever you want to use. I have a lot of rubber bands because I do my daughter's hair with rubber bands. And since I have a bunch of these little jokers, we're going to use rubber bands. Alright. This needle, you want to make sure you get the needle that opens and closes because you don't want to snag the hair on the way out. You want to put it in there while it's open, pull the hair back out while it's closed. And you can't do that if you got a needle that doesn't have the open and close on it. I had this needle for probably 4 years now. Look at it. It looks like it's going rusty. Ooh. Maybe I should invest in it. These only cost $1 at the hair store. You know, rubber bands cost $1 at the hair store. Now, I bought this from Walmart. I saw my mom use this on her hair. She does a S-curl, Jerry curls, and she uses this on her hair. I'm sorry, you guys. My lip is dry. We can't have that. And my Vaseline. Okay, that's better. My mom uses this whenever she does her S-curls, and this is very oily. I kid you not. I'm going to see if this works on his hair. I usually use a regular gel, but that makes his hair real hard and white, and I would have to wash his hair the day before and then do his hair with the gel and then wash his hair again afterwards because it would be white all in this area, and I'm trying to avoid that. And now, since I got a hold to this bad boy, after I saw my mom beautiful oily curls, look more like a Jerry curl. I don't know, it's S-curl, what it was. But this right here, I'm not sure if you guys can see the directions. It looks a little blurry. If it is, I'm sorry. I'm kind of in a rush trying to get the Christmas tree up. My kids are going crazy. I must delete the video. I was doing voiceovers. It was very hard. But I got it done. I'm about to upload. I'm about to put up the tree. And you guys can see this little tutorial. I think that's about it. The needle, the rubber bands, the gel. If you have any questions, put them down there. I answer them. Yep, I stay by my computer, so I answer back right away. Hopefully. Bye. Okay, first off, we're going to start with, rubber band. Put that hair up. Get that hair out of the way. You don't want the needle catching on to other dreads. You don't want it snagging any of those hairs that are matted together. So try your best to get the hair out of the way. And I have a bunch of rubber bands. You can use anything, hair tie, scrunchie, whatever you want to use. As you can see, I'm trying to go in and make it a tad bit more neater. The hair is very matte together, so I have to actually go in and pull his hair apart a little bit, or pull those matted hairs apart. Please take your time while doing this because, for one, my son is 5. But if you're doing client's hair, you don't want to hurt your client. And I have to do this very slowly. That way he's not crying or anything saying that I'm hurting him. But his neck is very tender. Well, not his neck, but the back of his hair is very tender. And I wanted to take my time. I didn't want to do a demonstration on the back of his head so that I could get it over with and get away from that area because he hates when I mess with that area. It's very tender. But the basics is you want to pull the hair up into the dread so that the edges will get up in there. And then you want to lock it in by latching it from the opposite direction or from the left or the right, if that makes any sense. I will show you a better demonstration later in the video. I just wanted to get away from his edges. Or his kitchen, if that's what you want to call it. But another advice, whenever you're latching, make sure your last latch is going in the direction you want the hair to stay. Like for an example, as you can see, I'm latching the kitchen of his hair or the back of his hair going upward because I want to make sure that whenever I put his hair into a ponytail, that they go up very easily. If you latch them down, they would kind of stay down. If that makes any sense, if you kind of picture that in your head, I don't know. But you want to make sure you're latching them up. And you want to make sure you're latching them in different directions also. And I will show a better demonstration, like I said, later on in the video. I just wanted to kind of get these 4 out of the way so that I can get away from his, his tender spots or his tender area. Another thing I do is I squeeze to see if I can latch one more time. If you feel like a gap in between like the scalp and the dread, then that means you can possibly latch one more time. Like I was telling you about the edges part, you want to make sure you're pulling them in and then locking them in. So I'm going to take this edges and I'm going to pull it in. And then I'm going to lock it in by going in a different direction. Now at this point, I am going to bring his dreads down because I want them to be downward. I don't want them sticking up or anything. I know this may seem like I'm going fast, but I'm actually not. This took me about an hour and 15 minutes to do because of how slow I go. If you stay and wait till the end of the video, you will see how slow I go. This process can hurt the person's head a lot. So you want to make sure you're going very slow because this needle method tend to get a lot of snags and sometimes it tugs at the person's hair. When you're sticking the needle in or out of it. Just be careful. My son been getting this. He had this since he was 1 year old. He's pretty much used to me doing this to his hair. But please, I cannot stress. You have to go slow. You have to take your time. This will be another demonstration of bringing the edges in. First, you want to gel them, going in the direction where you're going to latch it. You need to make sure your latch is open every single time you're latching. And then you put the hair in and then you close the latch before you pull it back through. If you don't close the latch before you pull it back through, it'll snag, or it could snag some of the hair that's like in the middle of the dread when it's coming back out, if that makes any sense. Matter of fact, I have a part where I do show because I got a snag and coming out of his hair. Like for you guys to comment down below and tell me what you think of this method. This right here would be a perfect demonstration. If you don't latch the hair in different directions, do you see this little hole or this gap? If you constantly latch in the same direction, it would just have a circle in the middle of the dread and you would have to wait until it grows out. I made this mistake before when I started his dad hair. Latching his dad hair, I didn't really necessarily knew what I was doing, but that was all of 6 years ago, so now I'm pretty good at it. But I got lazy one day and I constantly latched in the same direction and it created these pockets in every single dread I had. Then when I went back to latch his hair later on, maybe a few months later, all of the dreads had a circle in it. So make sure you're latching in different direction to close these gaps every single time. Do not latch going the same way twice. Did I already stress to you guys that you need to make sure you're taking your time in doing this process, because the needle would snag or it would catch on to the other hair, and you don't want to be going fast to where you don't notice that it did that and you pull the hair. That could hurt the person, and you could possibly have someone wanting to fight you in your salon, or whoever's child hair you're doing. If you're doing this method, you don't want to hurt them. This right here would be a perfect example of a snag. This thread right here is big because I had to take two dreads and put them together, because over time dreads tend to thin. So you don't want it thinning out too much to where the whole dread pops off. So I would put it together and then kind of sew it together, or you can just let it grow out, or however you want to do it. But make sure you're going slow enough to where you catch that snag. Don't go fast and then you don't realize that, you know, that's a big one, and they kind of snag a lot when you get towards the big ones. And that's another thing. Make sure your dreads are nice, decent sizes. Some people have big dreads, some people have little dreads. But if you get your dreads done every so often, they won't thin out as quickly as they usually do. Some people wait 6 months to get their hair done. Don't do that. Get it done every 2 months, maybe. Another issue I have is when it comes to the matting. Make sure you're going slow so that when you pull hair apart, it doesn't hurt as much. And me personally, I know how it feels. I have 4C hair, so I'm constantly pulling my hair apart. So I don't want to hurt my 5-year-old. I'm a grown woman. I understand my pain, but I don't understand his. So I take my time and do this. One of the negative effects to using this method is it does take a toll on your ends. So you constantly have to keep up with your ends. It would make them kind of straggly or thin. I was sitting watching my mom do this method one day on my brother-in-law's hair, and she, instead of pulling the hair apart, she uses a scissors. But I need to warn you, you run a risk of cutting too much hair away from the dread. That's why I take my time and pull his hair apart. So you can use the scissors if you're pretty good at, cutting just the hairs that are mat together. But if not, then don't do that. Make sure the latch is closing before you go back. Sometimes I use my hands, sometimes I don't. I let the hair close it. As you can see, I'm going to demonstrate really close up what I'm talking about in this part. As you can see, the hair close the latch. But if you're going slow enough, then you can do this. If not, you need to make sure you're closing that latch every single time, because when it snags, it will hurt because it's going to grab the hair from in the middle of the dread. I absolutely love this method. Just look at his hair. It is just perfect. And this is the 4-month new growth. As you can see, that is so sad. Oh my gosh. But don't wait as long as I did. I just kind of lost track of time, and I'm glad that it didn't affect him as much, but I love this method. One good thing that come out of this, through all the pain or snags or whatever you have by getting this method done, is your hair is instantly latched. Meaning you don't have to tie your hair down, which he don't. You can go swimming the next day and don't worry about your hair frizzing up and your twists coming unravel. This is just the perfect thing for a 5-year-old. And his dad, oh man, when I first did his dad hair, he went outside in the rain, or he got caught in the rain, and he came back in the house with an afro. So if you're the type of person to where you want to do it and just leave it alone, don't worry about a blow dryer, hair dryer, do this method. You might actually like it as much as I do. Alright, on this part I had a hard time because I don't know if I can explain this right. I put too much of the end of the hair into the latch, so when I went to pull it through, it kind of bent, if that made any sense. Alright, you guys, we got our first snag. This is because the latch did not close before I try to pull it through. As you can see, it's trying to pull hair through the middle of the dread. So what you want to do is push it back up, put the hair in, and make sure that latch is closing, before you pull the hair out. Do you guys see these little slits or pockets or whatever you want to call them? That's not going to be there. Once the hair grows out, it's going to look like this new growth that you see right here. So don't worry about those little pockets. Do you guys remember me telling you that it does take a toll on your ends when you use this method? As you can see, this one came completely unraveled. And what I do is I pull it apart and I just braid it back down. And it is said that you can comb these out more easier than when you're getting your dreads twist. So if you want to use this method and then comb it out later, you can try that. But what I do is braid it down and then I twirl the rest of the hair in my hand to make it look, neat. And then that would dread back up later on. But I am going to make a video on this process, so stay tuned for that. I do want to cut his hair, but he keeps telling me no. So I want to also comb it out first, then cut it. But I just want to see if it is, in fact, the easier process when it comes to combing it out, getting it latched, then twist. So that review, it may be like maybe a year or two away. Whenever he tells me he want me to cut his hair, I want to comb it out first. So look for that in the future. And this part right here is a little hard to explain. Whenever you get a piece and you're only able to latch that one time because of how big it is, just take that little piece and kind of wrap it around the needle, and the needle will pull it in. Also remember, when you're latching, you want the hair to fall in between gaps. just as if you're block braiding your hair. You don't want to have all these gaps in between your braids. Make sure when you're latching these hairs in places to where it's going to fall and cover those gaps. Okay, so this is about the end of the video. I hope this helped you guys if you're trying this method, or if you're trying to put dreads in your child's hair, or if you're a stylist. I hope this helped a little bit. I'm going to slow it down to show you guys how slow I did it, or how slow I do it. It takes about an hour and 15 minutes to do this because of how slow I do it. But I think it's a really good method. Thanks for watching the video. If you have any questions, leave the comment down below, or if you know a better way of doing this, let me know. I got 2 more.